Hello and welcome back once again. We are continuing off with our Space Marine, Space Wolf, actually. Last time we did kind of our base coats, we did the shoulder blades. This time we're going to be kind of cleaning up. You can tell this yellow is very patchy. The red as well, it's just a little bit harder to see. We're going to do some of the gun here. We're going to do his little chest decals, his little, I don't know what we want to call that, kind of metal thing he has. And then we're just generally going to try to finish things off. We might not finish everything this episode, we might do just one more, but we're going to get as far into it as we can. We're going to be starting off with probably our hardest one to master here. It's going to be our Everland Sunset. This might take one or two extra layers, just depending on kind of how lucky we get. It's a very, very difficult color to kind of get down. So, of course, we're going to make sure it's nice and thin. And we're just going to go ahead and apply it as carefully as we can to our shoulder pad here. I'm using a little bit of a bigger brush today, hopefully just kind of masking those kind of brush strokes that we could see there pretty easily. And looking at this, I can already tell it's going to be at least one more coat, but this is looking nicer than it was before, so we're going to keep going with this and hope that it just looks better every time we do it, basically. I do also want to apologize a little bit for the delay in videos. I know it seems like you guys are enjoying this Space Wolf series quite well. The viewership has been ever so slightly higher than my normal videos kind of tend to get, so that's great. I do want to thank you guys a lot for that, for taking interest in it. But just when I think I'm kind of ahead in videos, it turns out that I end up getting behind again. And we're actually going to be doing our Mephiston at the same time as this, just because we want it to dry completely before we go back. But unfortunately, I got kind of thrown for a loop. I didn't realize that daylight savings was a thing this weekend. And of course, I work on the weekends. I do 12-hour shifts, which is good fun. I also do night shift, which is another bit of fun layered on top. And there I am, 1 o'clock in the morning, waiting for the shift to end, just dragging on, and then I look. I think it happened at like 2, so I watched the clock go to 2 o'clock, and then it just went right back to 1 again. Really was not expecting that. Sucked working a 13-hour shift instead of a regular 12, and I entirely meant to do a video when I got home that morning, but I was just so out of it. I was like, man, that really, the extra hour doesn't really seem like a lot, but then you get home and you see your bed and you're like, all right, that's it. I'm done. I am clocking out for the day and just not doing anything else. So that's my excuse. It's a very flimsy one, but it's the only one I got. So there you are. And our red's looking pretty solid there. I don't think we're really going to touch that much more, but I do want to do another coat of yellow real quick. And maybe this will kind of patch us up, maybe it won't. We'll come back and do another layer at some point if it doesn't, but we're going to try our best here. And thankfully, we still have a little bit of wet paint on our palette, so I don't have to mess around too much with this. But again, just real quick, be a little bit careful not to kind of go onto our edge trim there. Do the same thing as last time, and I apologize for the weird angles. You have to bear with me here. And there we are. Ever so slightly closer. I don't know if you guys watched my salamander video. It was much the same problem. I really like, I think it was warpstone green we used for that, but good lord, it took a ton of layers, and our yellow was kind of doing the exact same thing. But I digress. While we kind of wait for that to dry, and we'll move on to our Abaddon black here. I was kind of debating what color I was going to do the bolter. I think black just kind of seems like the logical next step. I don't really know what other color I would do that would look nice, so black is going to be what we kind of decide on here. And I've actually got another Abaddon Black coming in the mail, hopefully soon. I did kind of a, I wouldn't even say big order for Warhammer standards. The new Christmas model was released for pre-order. I picked that up, and then I either paid for another model or I paid for shipping, so I got the Sanguinor as well. Both of those are going to be arriving roughly around the 15th, I believe is when it said. So I'm very excited for those. I will be sure to do a video on it, and it would be nice to have kind of a Christmas themed video for the holiday. I wanted to do something for Halloween, but I just really couldn't think of anything that was specifically spooky in terms of Warhammer. At least 40k. I was gonna do some like night, excuse me, like the Night Haunt, I think they're called for the fantasy guys, but I just never really got around to it. But definitely next year, I think I want to do something fun for Halloween. Maybe we'll do October, just kind of depending on, how we're feeling, where I'm at financially, whether I can afford a box of orcs or not. We'll see. We'll definitely see. It's not really top of my priorities, sadly. I like orcs, but man, they don't really appeal to me too much. I do want to do a tutorial on them eventually, though. I have like 20 different colors of green that I want to use, specifically for some goblin models, but I think they go great on some orcs as well. And while we let that dry a little bit, I want to also clean up our gray as well. I was really on the fence about the Fang, which is the gray we've been using for our base coat. On its own, it doesn't look like it's the right kind of shade. I was really on the fence about it, but kind of the more I look at it, and especially once we got these shoulder pads painted up, it does look a lot better. And I don't know whether it's technically the correct shade or not, but it's a really nice color in general, so I'm going to stick with it. We're keeping it, and I have no regrets about it. It looks so nice, but it does need cleaned up a tiny bit, so we're going to nail that while we're here. And then I think we'll even try another shade of yellow because it's still not quite where I want it. And I'll use the other side of the brush here so we can kind of get that trim without messing things up too badly. I've mentioned it before. I don't know what series it was in, but I talk a lot during these, so it kind of all blends together. I mentioned I would kill for a Battlefield 40k crossover. I know that's kind of something that people have been talking about for a while. I think it would just make sense. And now that 40k is kind of being more mainstream, I think that would be kind of the next step, right? Like a solid 40k FPS that isn't like a Left 4 Dead shooter. I like Dark Tide, but man, it's not, I don't know, it's not quite what I'm looking for. But I was thinking about some more like ideas for Warhammer games, right? Because now we have like Battle Sector, we have the Rogue Trader RPG, and those are all great. But what I would really, really love, and I've been reading some Lovecraft stuff recently, so this kind of plays into it a little bit, is like a Lovecraft-inspired like Inquisitor game, right? Imagine that you're playing as an Inquisitor or like an Arbite or something, and there's a ton of dried paint that just came up off my palette. But you're going around and you have like a little crew. Maybe you have like your own ship, right? And you're going from like hive world to hive world, and you're like solving mysteries and like dealing with chaos and like warp taint and stuff. I don't know about you guys, but I was just kind of brainstorming it, and it just kind of sounded cooler the more I thought about it. So that's my little idea for the day. Games Workshop, if you're watching this, hire me. Let me be one of your creative directors. I promise you will not be disappointed. No, seriously though, I'm really glad that Warhammer itself is getting much more popular, and I hope that more games will be coming out, because they've all been pretty much bangers recently. Obviously, Space Marine 2 is peak. I have a few issues with that game, but overall, it's great. I love it. And I'm excited to see what kind of the future of Warhammer gaming is going to be like. But I digress. We're going to go and focus back to our yellow here. And I'm actually going to switch my paintbrush to this one. It's a little bit thinner than the other one we're using, but hopefully it still has enough kind of coverage area that we can kind of do this in an effective manner here. During this, I also want to redo the base. I don't know if I mentioned that in the last video or not. The sand doesn't really vibe well with our Space Wolf. Maybe you could theoretically say that he's in the middle of like burning Prospero. That'd be kind of cool. But he's also a Primaris Marine, so that doesn't really work. But I do have a technical paint. I don't know if we'll quite get to it in this video. It'll probably be the next one. But I definitely want to change it up a little bit, make it more kind of snowy, a little bit more thematic at least for our endearing, loyal wolf boy here. Speaking of Space Wolves, I've been reading a lot of the Horus Heresy stuff about them, and I've got to say, I don't know when it happened, but Space Wolves really went from being like Viking themed to being wolf themed, and it's not just like a recent thing. Like it's as I'm reading the Heresy books, it's like it's turning into a whole thing, right? You can't read like more than one page without there being like 15 instances of the word wolf coming up, and it's really starting to get on my nerves. Like they're Vikings. Please lean more into that. Don't lean into the wolf thing. It gets so annoying so quick, and I really hate it. But that's my gripe for the day. I think I really drew the line when they had some Horus Heresy models come out. I think it was last year. It was like an upgrade sprue, and all the heads were like wolf heads. Like, man, come on. You're not helping like the whole, not a furry thing. But I digress. We are going to move on to our next paint here. I think we're still going to need another layer of yellow, but honestly at this point I'm just kind of going to ignore it for now. We are going to be doing a Balthazar gold. I was kind of on the fence about whether I wanted to do gold or silver for our little like decals and stuff here. I think gold just kind of looks a little bit better, and that fits more with like their Horus Heresy era colors. So we're going to rock that. Easiest thing here is to focus on this little, I don't know what you want to call this, his little medal, I guess. Kind of looks like a like Iron Cross from like World War II. I dig it. I don't know the official name of it, but we are going to paint it nonetheless. And of course we'll try to get the sides and back as well, and hopefully we won't cover the arm in this gold here. And of course I can't paint, sorry, my brush about fell off my desk there. I can't paint Balthazar gold without bringing up the fact that it's not gold at all. It looks more like bronze, and I of course hate the name that they used for it. It's not gold. It's nowhere even remotely close to gold. It is like bronzish, kind of copper, if anything. But yeah, I won't harp on it too much. I just feel the need to mention it at least once every time I use it. And let's even do the jump pack as well, or backpack, whatever you want to call it. We'll do the little exhausts, just like we did. I think our Salamander had the kind of gold trim on the back here, and it came out looking pretty decent, so we're going to do the exact same thing. And I've actually watered that down just a little bit too much, so let me kind of remix that here. We'll do the inside of the exhaust as well, kind of up here. My hands are shaking real bad all of a sudden. I don't really know what that's all about. That was just fine a moment ago. But we are kind of getting close to the end, so shouldn't be too much of an issue. I do kind of want to knock out 2 videos in this batch, though, just so I'm kind of ahead one day, and I kind of want to keep that going, because I hate missing. I try to do daily uploads. Unfortunately, I also have a kid and a job, so I don't have a ton of free time. Usually, if I'm like awake at night and my kid's asleep, I'll kind of get a recording in or two. But it's very easy to fall behind. Even though I just do like 20-minute videos, I still have to like edit them a little bit, and there's the uploading time. So it's unfortunate. I can't just pump them out as quickly as I want to, without kind of throwing away some of the quality effect as well. But I definitely try. I definitely try to kind of keep to a schedule. And I'm kind of running out of paint here. I thought I put more on the palette, but I guess it's just kind of drying. I don't know if you can see this. It's not too big of a deal. I'm just doing kind of the back of that of these little exhaust tips. And then since these have dried, we're going to go across them just one more time real quick, just because they were so thin the first time around. And I think we'll try, it should only be one more layer, at least I hope. We're going to try the yellow, and we're then going to do a little bit of freehanding. It's never a fun time when I freehand. I always kind of hate it, but it's like type 2 fun, right? I don't know if you guys use that term, or if it's unique to me, but it's one of those things where in the time that you're doing it, it sucks, but then you can kind of look back on it and enjoy it. Like anytime you have like a near-death experience, give it a couple weeks after the trauma has died down, and you can suddenly laugh about it. That's type 2 fun to me. Maybe I'm just weird. Maybe that's not a normal way to see things, but there you go. That's how I consider freehanding. In the moment, it sucks, but kind of looking back on it, you're like, yeah, it's not too bad. I'll probably do it again someday. When we did our salamanders, I freehanded all the flames, and they don't look great by any means, but they're not terrible. I'm glad I did them. I just feel like I ruined that paint because it just hit my hand, but that's all right. It's looking better every time we do a shade. I promise we'll leave the yellow alone for this episode. Officially, that's the last time I'm touching it. But it does take practice to perfect something, and I'm never gonna get better at freehanding if I don't do it. So we might suck the first few times. So I'm definitely going to keep trying. And we're going back to our Abaddon Black. And I don't need too much of this. I'm just going to get a little bit on my palette. And we're going to try to freehand. They're kind of like triangles from what I've seen. And they just kind of go on this red shoulder pad here. I don't know if they necessarily start in the corner or not, but that's the way I'm going to do it. And if I'm wrong, then sue me. If I can even get it on here. Apparently not. I swear there was paint on my brush. It just kind of didn't really stay on. I don't know what that's all about. I'm also trying not to press too hard because I don't want to kind of make it all smudgy. And, oh yeah. Maybe. I swear I'm touching. I don't know what is with that. Alright. Third time's the charm. I have paint on my brush. I promise you. Alright. You know what? We're going to do it this way. It's because my Abaddon Black is like almost empty. It's not really too wet anymore. It's mostly just pigment, which kind of sucks, but I'm powering through it regardless. Here we go. There we go. Now it's much more wet. And see, it's doing the same thing to me. It's getting like real sticky. Well, I tell you what, we're gonna leave it there. I'm going to find another thing of Abaddon Black because this is like mostly kind of tar now. It's just mostly dried up. So we'll finish our kind of freehanding next time. I'll do the base as well, and then we'll slap a wash on it. And we'll just kind of clean everything up. I still need to get that kind of skull Imperialis thing as well. So we will do all of that next time. Just real quick, I also want to shout out, I have a Patreon. If you guys enjoy these videos and want to see more, that's a great way to support the channel. Otherwise, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate all your guys' feedback, and it means a lot to me. Other than that, thank you guys very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.